We're trying to be as absolute, transparent as we could with ads in the paper and everything else. So a good turnout. Glad you're here, and I know you're here because you all care about Gatlinburg and the future of Gatlinburg. And as we do, we've had a real good group, a diverse group from the city, a lot of different business people that are very concerned about the character of Gatlinburg. And if you think about the word character, what it means, and we're all concerned with that, we want to keep our quaint mountain town feel, which is a character, something you can see and something that you can feel. So I want to applaud the group that put in so many hours of hard work to get to where we are now. With that, I want you to know too that there's going to be plenty of time for discussion, and we want input from people that are here, definitely. And thank you again for being here. With that, I'll turn it over to our city manager, Cindy Cameron-Ogle.
Okay, and the mayor has mentioned a committee that we have been working with for, I guess, a couple of months now. So who's on that committee is Robert Montgomery and Logan Kuykendall, Mark Adams, Mikey Edwards, Jackie Leatherwood, Bo Massey, and Dan Booth, and several of those folks are here this evening. And so who they worked with as to the administration is me and Greg and Jeff and the assistant city planner Dalton, who I think is out of town.
Yes.
And Chad, is Chad Netherland in the room?
Yeah.
And Chad. So I've named enough people that you can just spread the joy around to all of us, or the concern. But as the mayor said, this is an effort to deal with the aesthetics of town. It's that simple, and concerns that we have seen and have been expressed to us. So with that, I think to get into the meat of the regulations, Jeff Owenby, if you will come up here, please, sir.
Be glad.
This is embodied in an ordinance, but he will go over with you. I don't guess we have a handout, do we, as it relates to the regulations?
We don't, but we're able to put it on the screen.
Okay, so it's on the screen. Take it away, Jeff, please.
So this, just for information purposes, this proposed regulation is actually in the municipal code, Title 14 of the municipal code, which talks about zoning, land use control. It's a new Chapter 5, which deals specifically with merchandise and lighting regulations. So purpose and intent is something that's pretty typical, but I will read these really quickly, just so you have it in your mind kind of where this ordinance, where these regulations as proposed are coming from. The purpose and intent of the chapter is to promote the health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants and visitors of Gatlinburg by establishing regulations to preserve, protect, and enhance the unique aesthetic, cultural, and/or architectural character and value of designated portions of the city of Gatlinburg. This chapter shall provide additional business activity and design guidelines and prohibitions for businesses located within the identified districts. Particularly, this chapter establishes additional merchandise display restrictions and lighting display, location and lumens guidelines and restrictions. Signs, merchandise displays, lighting displays which are not visible from the public streets or sidewalks are exempt, and that's similar to a regulation or a statement that we have in the zoning related to signs and zoning uses. So we'll move on to section 502, which has a couple of definitions. They're pretty straightforward, but I'll go through them real quickly. First definition, merchandise shall be defined as and include any merchandise, item, product, sample, example, or likeness of any product or item that is offered for sale by a business. Building shall be defined as walls, structural supports, roofs, including mansard roofs and parapet walls, windows, doors, overhangs, awnings, decks, deck railings, which are component and part of a composite structure providing space for the business activity. Building, story, or floor shall be defined as follows. The first floor shall be defined as the first 9 feet of the building above ground level. Second floor and subsequent floors shall be defined as each of the next sections of 9 feet of building. Signs are defined in the Gatlinburg zoning ordinance, section 411. Window shall be defined as an opening in the wall of a building or door that is fitted with glass or other transparent material to admit light or air and allow people to see in or out. So that's kind of the get ready, informational kind of stuff. So then we go to the actual regulations themselves as they are proposed. There are two sections, Section 503 and Section 504. 503 is the merchandise and storefront display regulations. This section will provide additional business activity and design guidelines and prohibitions for businesses within the C1, C2, and C3 districts. Just for information too, C1 is the downtown tourist commercial district. C2 is the general business commercial district, extends to some other areas of the city. C3 is a neighborhood commercial district, which allows restaurants, convenience markets, those kinds of things. We have very few properties that are zoned C3, but the committee felt it was important to include those as well. C1, C2, and C3 districts. Item 1, the total maximum window space occupied by merchandise and or signs with an 18-inch of a window shall not exceed 50% of each window. You see a couple of drawings there too, figures that kind of help to visually see what that means. This shall apply to the surface area of each individual window panel, transparent opening, or glass to which the merchandise and or signs are attached. Any combination of signs and merchandise shall not exceed 50% of each window space. This will apply to the surface area of each individual window panel or transparent opening or glass to which the merchandise is attached. Signage shall not cover more than 30% of each window, and that's an existing regulation out of the zoning ordinance, and that's what that refers to there. The calculation for the maximum 50% window coverage shall take into account both merchandise or any merchandise and signs applied to, painted on, affixed to, hanging on, sitting, or standing within 18 inches of each business window. The next part, or kind of a definition or a component, states that any combination of merchandise and signage shall not cover more than 50% of each window or transparent door. Therefore, this is just some examples. 30% signage coverage would allow 20% of merchandise. 20% signage would allow 30% merchandise. 10% signage would allow 40%, and so on. The total window coverage may not exceed 50%. The next sections, these provisions shall apply to each floor of the building where the business is located. In effect, if a business is designed with the largest expanse of glass window covering extending more than one floor, the provisions apply to each floor, as we defined earlier. Then the last section of the merchandise proposed regs, displays on doors shall be limited to no more than 30% signage, which can include business name, business contact information, QR code, and only likeness or images of merchandise. No more than 50% of coverage. Any combination of merchandise and signage shall not cover more than 50% of each window or transparent door. Therefore, 30% signage would allow 20% merchandise, and we have that restated again. Those pictures at the top of this section actually show what would happen if you had certain parts that were signage that would allow, an example, 30% signage would allow an additional 20% of merchandise. Total coverage then, 50%. That's the merchandise section. The last section is 504. And these are proposed lighting regulations. This section shall provide additional business activity and design guidelines and prohibitions for businesses located within all commercial districts. Accent storefront lighting shall be defined as lighting which outlines or is attached to a window, door opening, or any portion of a window with the intention to attract customers or attention to the storefront. Lights which outline or are placed on windows, doors, or door openings, either inside or outside of the business, which are visible to the public, are prohibited. Then there's kind of a definition and explanation of what those lights could possibly be. The attempt here is to not allow somebody to find a loophole and say, well, it's not that kind of light. So, accent storefront lighting shall include the following: strobe lights, lights which mimic flashing emergency vehicle lights, neon lights or light strips, rope lights or strings of lights, strings of bulbs with LED, fluorescent, incandescent, halogen, or similar bulbs. Note, holiday lights installed during the Winterfest event, which runs from the second Thursday in November through President's Day in February, are exempt from this requirement. Lights which are utilized during the Winterfest event must be removed or turned off at the conclusion of the Winterfest event. So, two simple sections, one deals with merchandise, one deals with lights, and that's what this advisory committee has come up with. We put it in ordinance form for the commission to review, and I know that's the purpose of the workshop there, Mr. Mayor, to have some discussion.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're very welcome.
Logan, I'd like to call on you now, just if you would go over a few of the points of why this is done.
Well, I think first we would say is that probably most of Gatlinburg complies with this. So, but there are a few areas where where the merchandising is either up close to the, and taking up more than 50%. And so we just want to come up with a regulation that obviously deals with that, and it's obviously uniform throughout our commercial districts, and then the lighting as well. So we've got a lot of lighting that is, basically going around our window, mostly windows, but doors as well, that is very, it's very hodgepodge, and it goes different from property to property as you know, and it really has a very distracting, and it just doesn't look like the quaint town that we're trying to be. So I think those are the two main items we really wanted to address. We thought that those were kind of really outstanding items that we thought that if we addressed those in this manner, it could really help kind of freshen up the feel and the look of our downtown area. So that's probably it in a nutshell, unless anybody else has something they want to add to that. It was on the committee.
And was the committee pretty much unanimous on?
Oh, yes, there was, I would say, and certainly speak up if anybody wants to, but there was a consensus across every decision that was made, consensus across all these decisions that were put forth. And we looked at several different options, and this was the consensus that we came up with.
Mark Ames, I'd like to call on you. Are there any other towns of our nature that are doing any regulations like these?
Yeah, we called approximately probably 10 to 12 other cities from all across the country, a lot in the southeast, trying to find similar destinations like Gatlinburg. And what we found is that most of those destinations either just recently went through the similar thing that we're going through now, or they're about to go through it. And that's what almost every city we talked to found what Logan said, inconsistencies. And they were losing the look and the feel of what their town was. And they said it was just, it just wasn't what they thought it was. So I'm trying to think, but there were several we talked to, all like, everything from Savannah, Georgia to, Estes Park, Colorado, and everywhere in between. So,
Very good.
but it sounds like there was a lot of places going through similar challenges that we were having.
To me, one of the key things here is that during the lighting program, that they are allowed. And that's usually it's about a 4-month period, and it's about the slowest time of the year. So if it's really going to enhance your business, that would be the time to do it. And that is allowed with these regulations. I think that's an important part.
With the lighting regulations.
With the lighting,
right? Yeah,
yes.
with lighting,
Yes,
not
thank
the
you.
merchandising.
Okay, now I'm going to just open it up to the floor. If anyone has any comments they'd like to make, please feel free to do so. Yes, Linda.
My shops in Gatlinburg face the street, and they're very small, and most of the shops have, not most of them, they have the windows in the front, and people slap the people open the windows up so that they're working in the window so people can see into them. So how are you addressing that these windows are open and there can't be anything on those windows at that time? I mean, I'm not sure I understand exactly this 18-inch thing coming back, or about these open windows. How does that work?
Jeff, did you want to?
Yeah, open which way, Linda?
Just
Open
if they
and
just
out?
slide open like this, so people are sitting in the window, well, they're talking to people passing by, but they're working on whatever they're selling.
Right.
So
right.
how would that be addressed?
Jeff, do we have an answer for that?
Well, whether the window is opened or closed, the amount of coverage of that window is 50%. That's how this regulation is written.
Well, if it was open, there wouldn't be any coverage, there would just be a person sitting there.
But if it's open and slide to the side, you
Slide,
can still
yeah.
see the window.
So as long as it's not covered, I mean, it'd be 50% with the materials that they're selling.
That's right, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And is it, I'm sorry, is it still 18 inches off the window, even if it's open or closed?
Yeah, that's the definition of what a merchandise in a window or a glass door is. If it's within that distance, you can't walk between it inside the business, you know what I mean? Or in this case, work inside that space, so.
But these small shops, that is our workspace. The shops are so small that if you take that away from us, you're taking away our ability to sell, speak to people about what they're seeing. It's a craft. We're a craft area. And that's what I thought Gatlinburg was supposed to be, a craft area, which is what we are in that area. That is what Gatlinburg was started with, and what we promote is the craft.
So can people see you doing the craft
Yes,
from
in
the window?
Yes.
Logan, was that addressed at all, or?
Well, I mean, I think back to what Jeff was saying is, as long as it, I mean, I think 50% is actually a pretty good area of a window. I mean, as long as it's not, you gotta think 18 inches back, anything within that space
Yeah.
only can cover 50%. So if it's behind that, if it's behind the 18 inches, you
But
can
that's
have,
taking up a lot of the small shops, if you're setting us back, and I can't speak to my customers when they're speaking to me to find out what we're doing. This is how we promote our product.
It's a 20-foot shop. I mean, every little inch is very
It's not
valuable.
impacted.
It has been for-
And, you know, the term
Yeah.
impulse buying,
It's-
you know, people don't come to Gatlinburg to
Yeah,
buy
but if I
a
could,
license plate. You know,
let's
Yeah,
clarify
I think there may be a
couple of
little
things
misunderstanding,
here.
just so you know. Your business activity is not impacted
Yeah,
by this
But
regulation.
even the
It's simply,
product, we want the product out there so that when they walk by,
They ask
it
us
catches their
about
eye.
it. They ask us and
I
we talk
understand.
to them about it.
You know, they
You-
read
you-
them and they laugh and they want to talk to us about the product.
We make lots and lots of friends that, from being able to do that. And that's after 50 years.
but if the windows are open, you're still able to do that. That doesn't impact
But we
your
need the
interaction
product
with
out
the.
there.
But if you're taking our product back while we're working, you're not being able to talk to us about the product. Because we're concentrating on what we're doing.
Well, and it's like when you walk into a mall, you're looking in windows, they have stuff in malls on windows, you know, and that's professional detail. How many, I don't want to insult anybody, but how many people on the board have actually worked retail? Well, then you understand impulse buying. You have to put the product out there close to them. When you walk through a register, they don't put the product back. They put it out there, so it sees it and they go, hey, I want that.
I've done it my whole life.
And these are very small shops.
I don't know where y'all are, but your body wouldn't count as part of that 50%.
They need the product out.
So you're gonna cover the whole, the window will be open, and then the whole window's full of product, and then you're
No.
behind
No,
the product?
it's open, but we still want the product out.
Yeah, you can have,
They
as long
want-
as it's 50, not more than 50%. The opening is covered with product that can't be outside your property, but it can be within. It doesn't have to be 18 inches back,
correct.
correct?
All
Yeah,
right.
it can be within the 18 inches.
This, yeah.
Yes.
We're framing ourselves.
Yes.
So we can talk to them.
and it
all.
so why don't we pause and go over that aspect of it? Because I do think the 18 inches is confusing. So how about we go do the 18 inches part again?
Okay.
Okay? I think that it's confusing.
Yes.
It is.
Of course, the intent of the regulations, where the discussion started with, was with windows that have merchandise attached. covering the windows. So the intent here is to limit that amount of window space that's covered.
None of your shops do.
So, yeah, the 18 inches is just if it's within 18 inches of a window, then it counts in that. If it's farther back than that, then you can see in the window. That's the point of the 18 inches. Has nothing to do with displaying merchandise in your shop. It's just what's attached or near the window as if attached. That's the intent there, is to provide a location for merchandise inside the shop that's attached to a window, not an open storefront like you have. You can sit all you want to on your little bench there or on your counter
Yes.
where your space is open
Yes.
because it's not attached to the window.
No, we're not attached.
Right, and these regulations apply to windows or glass doors that are covered with
Oh, well,
merchandise.
And then the 18 inches comes in from the standpoint that if you have a display cabinet, let's just call it that, within 18 inches, the 50% applies.
oh.
Okay? If it's 18 and a half inches, it doesn't apply, or anything larger, longer, whichever way to say that, bigger than that. Yeah, further back than
I
that.
just want to be able to talk to my customers, because when we first came to Gallagher, we used to be able to sit on the sidewalk. They made us move inside, which is fine, we adjusted to that.
Mhm.
But people like to congregate and talk to us while they're watching us do our skill, pinstriping,
Okay.
which they know is gonna hold up. I mean, 50 years in a spot, and you're still doing it good. You don't want to get rid of that.
No, we want you to be able to do that.
You want,
Yeah.
you want us to make money, because
Yeah.
you're making money from the city on what we make.
Right.
We want to make money, all of us.
Chucky?
Will you guys go in shops that have been here for 50 years that maybe don't meet this new regulation, or are they gonna, the police gonna go in and make them take their signs down, or are they grandfathered in, and then this is any new business, or how does that work?
Logan, you want to address that?
This is not a grandfathering issue, it will apply to everybody in the commercial district, so everybody will have to comply.
And it's, we're not proposing this to hurt any business. We want to enhance business and, to keep the character, and that's the word that just really resonated with me, of a quaint mountain town. It's easy to lose that pretty quick. And we're trying to maintain that and keep it, even go back, as Cindy said the other day, to the character of old that we had.
And we currently have an enforcement officer, correct?
Yes.
And I think that the intent will be to come and try to educate
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
the
Yes.
community first, and try to let them know what, and obviously have conversations about it initially until, so there'll be a compliance period, and then obviously enforcement thereafter, so.
I just have a question about the lighting, I know is a concern. I have no problem with that, by the way, but the way I heard you say it had to be attached to the door or window, is that right, the lighting or not?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if I was to build a frame 1 inch behind the window, then I could have all my lighting on that. I guess if it's your intent to prevent that lighting, if I'm a creative individual, I'm going to take it off the window and move it back. So I would.
Saying.
So I just think that if that's your intent, I think you might want to reword that language a little bit, because it's easier to come up with this.
It's a great point, Bob, and just to reiterate, lights which outline or are placed on windows, doors, or door openings, either inside or outside of the business. If it lines a door or a window,
Well, that's my concern, is that if you're close on that door or window,
either inside or outside.
I know, but what if you moved it back? So I build a frame a half inch back up my window and I put it on the window, so, on that frame. So I don't know if that's gonna prevent, I'm just pointing that out. I'm not saying right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm just saying if your intent is to get rid of that lighting, I don't know if that's gonna do anything.
There are very few issues with that lighting inside the stores that are.
Oh, it's supposed to be outside, okay. Oh, okay, this or that.
But an inch would be your window, correct? And it'd be to attract
obviously, there's some interpretation there, and the regulations are in draft form, of course, and the ordinance is in, for first reading, so there are ways to work on those kinds of issues, obviously. Great point.
It does, and it's visible to the public.
Any other comments, questions?
I
Chuck?
have a question, going back to what Skip was asking. Now, this board committee, how many people were on that committee?
7, I think.
And how many people were
7.
business owners downtown? Downtown. Everybody's downtown Galvin business owners, okay? So where did you guys get this 50% figure? I mean, where did that come from? I mean, did you just guess at it, or? I mean, I'm asking because when I rented my shop, okay, I had 4 display windows, and they're called display windows for a purpose. What is that? Display your merchandise. So now you're only allowed to use it for half of it, correct? According to this? So it's not really a display window. So what is the other half supposed to be used for? Explain that to me.
Well, I think the intent is for people to be able to see inside the store, and to just kind of make things look better in the downtown area.
No, I agree with that, Sid. I don't
Yeah.
have a problem with that at all. But I mean, do they need 50% of the, I'm asking where these percentages came from this committee, right? Am I right?
Yeah, well, it
Well,
came from discussion with staff as well, not
Okay,
just
so,
the
but
committee.
It's not like that Anthony Fauci thing, that 16, they just made that up. I mean, I'm wondering where these figures really came from. That's a lot of space to give up for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and does a customer need 50% of my display window to look in to see my store? I'm asking the question, I don't know,
Right,
because you
right,
guys
I-
are setting the rules, and I gotta live by them.
Yeah. I
Well, the flip
understand.
side of that is the stuff that we want to take care of that is not very desirable. How do you fix that?
I'm sorry now?
I said the flip side of that is the non-desirable stuff that you don't, that clutters the windows. What would you do there?
Well, you gonna penalize me because somebody has non-desirable stuff in their window?
Nobody said anybody's getting penalized.
Well, if I'm only gonna use 50%, I'm being penalized, am I not?
How deep is your display window?
How deep is it?
How
No,
deep?
What do you mean, how deep?
Does it go all the way into your shop, or is it just a display?
Display windows are probably 4 feet by 6 feet, 30 foot frontage, 4 of them. They go in, it's a solid piece of glass, and I have my merchandise displayed in my window that I sell in the store. But I don't understand, it doesn't make sense to me, why you're telling me that I have to give up 50% of my display window. That's why I rented that business 45 years ago, to use that display window. And I don't know where this 50% is coming from, and why is that the magic number? That's all I'm asking, answer the question.
Was that any part of the original, already in the municipal zoning somewhere, the 50%?
No, we looked at some other communities, and 50% is a number that's used in some others.
Right.
We also, there was discussion, the first go-around with this process of is 30% enough, is 50% enough? And there was a working process of figuring out what would make an impact to the visual storefront of downtown Gatlinburg, what amount of merchandise removed would make an impact as far as its appearance. And it was a number that was, after working several months, that was reasonable or made sense. That's,
Jeff, I understand that, but it also makes an impact on my business. If I can't put in my display window what is for sale in my store, you don't think that's going to impact my business? So it impacts a lot of people. I just don't understand where this is coming from. Something doesn't seem right here to me. And I'm just asking you guys, because you guys are the ones that make the regulations, I gotta follow them.
I think Gatlinburg is a beautiful town. I didn't see anything offensive to overpower what is wonderful. I mean, I don't know where you all are coming from with this offensive stuff. I don't think we have offensive stuff.
If it's offensive, don't go in it. Don't go in the store.
That leaves it up to the judgment, but I think Gatlinburg is a beautiful mountain town.
I mean, let me kind of, as a business owner, and I'm affected by how people perceive Gatlinburg. So I do believe, and we have a lot of feedback where there is, and I'm not saying it is throughout, there are a lot of good business owners who have great looking storefronts and have great looking, but there are areas where there is clutter and where there is visual pollution. And this has been done in an effort to try to correct that and try to help move people in the direction that others are already in.
But aren't you taking away from a multitude of stores for a minute amount of bed? I don't see that much bed.
If you drive through town or walk through town, well, if you drive through town and you really go slowly and you start looking, you'll go past somebody who has a great looking storefront. You'll go by the next person and they have 29 different colors of LED lights or some rope lights that they bought from Lowe's or somewhere, and they've wrapped around their window.
The lighting kind of big.
And then you'll have somebody who has
Took your
just
product away from you. I
all
understand
this
the lighting.
signage plus all this product, and when you look at it, there'll be a sign here, some cigarette sign here, a t-shirt here, everything in the world.
There's one store that's got bed sheets hanging in their windows. Is that appropriate?
If you're looking
Like,
for buying.
no,
bed sheets,
they don't
it
sell
is.
bed sheets. They don't even sell bed sheets.
Well, if they don't sell bed sheets, they shouldn't be in their window.
Yeah.
That shouldn't even be an
Yeah.
issue, but you know.
So in doing this, it's not gonna be perfect, Chuck. You and I have been in town forever.
Dan, what you're saying, I agree with you, and I agree with these,
And
what
we
these
have to
people are
start
trying to
somewhere.
do. But when you're trying to tell me what is
That's
offensive
all
to you,
right.
and what one guy's looks good to him isn't gonna look good to
It's
you,
not
so
ever gonna be
we
perfect.
don't have the same taste. So, I mean, are you penalizing the guy that doesn't have as good a taste as what you think you have, or I think I have? I
Well,
mean, that's
it's
what
not gonna be
you're
perfect.
judging that person.
Well, I think we have to think about the whole town
Right.
as a whole. And some of us are gonna have to bite our tongue and think, what is best for this town to keep people coming in the future? We gotta be proactive, because what happens, as you well know, if I do this, then my neighbor a lot of times are gonna have to one up me, and they're gonna put out more stuff. I mean, it's happened throughout the ages. Just like, for instance, when you first came here, you had the jean shop and stuff. I worked up beside Rebel Corner, and they thought what Rebel Corner had out there with all the junk and paraphernalia we had, we've gotta clean this up. They got the stuff off the street, but then we just put it inside and put out more of it in our windows. I mean, where will we be 10 or 15 years from now, or 20 years from now, when we have our families? I mean, my son's coming in and gonna transition in. Where's he gonna be if we don't stop town from looking like it looks now? We have to keep it looking nice for the future. And some of us will have to bite our tongue, but we won't go out of business.
Dan, I'm not questioning that. I think
We're not going out of business.
I think everybody's got a great idea. All I'm saying is, give me some answers to some questions, because I don't
We
think.
did, we checked around with other towns.
That doesn't mean
Towns
it's, just because, we're not other towns, Dan.
That's right, and we don't want to be like some of our other towns who've not stopped it. If we don't stop it now, we're going to be.
Well, answer my question then. No, you didn't have it. If I got a display window and I can't display merchandise, then it's not a display window, correct?
Chuck, when you first came
Now,
in,
Dan,
they
answer
were
my question.
windows. They weren't-
Is it a display window or not? You're
Is it-
telling me
or
it's
is it
not.
just a window?
It's a window, so it's
Okay,
not a
a
display
window.
window.
They started out as windows.
Maybe it started out, I don't think it's, I put displays in there from day one.
It's not completely just all photos and stuff. It's not completely out from
I
day
think
one.
I've used every darn inch I could. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, I'm
Okay,
just,
that's what I'm saying. It's
I
not
think
gonna be
what these guys are trying to do is the right thing, because the town does need a lot of help.
Okay.
I'm for that, I'm not against it, I'm just asking, who made up the 50%? Where do these things come from? Are the business
We
people
told
that are,
you.
I'm sorry?
We've told you where we got it from. We checked with different, we checked, had what those companies called consulting companies.
Yeah.
We
Dan, you're
talked
one,
it through.
you're a business owner downtown like I am.
I am.
Okay, you 11 people on that board. Okay, and all of them are merchants downtown.
Not all of them are merchants, but they have investments in
Well, how many
whatever
people are merchants?
downtown.
How many people are retail merchants on that board? Tell me. Retail, not
Me, Maggie.
hotel owners and stuff like that.
Mark, Maggie, Mark, me, myself,
Mark who?
Robert Montgomery, hoteliers.
Mark Adams.
And then we have people like Greystone, they have to listen to their consumer, to their customer, that might not come back because they don't like the direction town's going.
Any other comments?
That's what,
You guys have anything else you want to add? Okay, at this time we're good. Chucky, go.
Sorry, is this applicable to like plants, like the weed stores and stuff? Like, is that gonna clean those up out of their windows and stuff?
Like the hemp stores
Yeah.
and this stuff?
Related to merchandise and
Okay,
lighting.
so I didn't know if
Whatever-
plants related to merchandise or not.
That's the merchandise, isn't it?
Okay, all right.
Very good. All right. Nothing else, ask for a motion to adjourn this workshop.
Or just adjourn this. if
I'll
you
just
would.
adjourn it. Might not get a motion.
Yeah.
hello.
Can you get out?